I'm Valerie,
and you're listening to the Hey Love podcast.
We know just what it's like to have a queer and woman-owned small business team. After all, we're Hey Love Studio.
Here, we'll be sharing our tips and tricks of what we have learned over a few years running a small business.
Whether it's a marketing strategy or how to get new clients or how to even just treat the clients you already have better, we're going to let you in on all the little secrets that make our team successful.
So join us along while we untap topics to make sure you shine and hype your clients up and pay those bills.
Valerie.
I'm Adeline.
And we're
Hey Love Studio.
Today, we're really going to be talking mostly to other photographers about how to ensure that you capture real love between your couples, especially when they're queer, and maybe you haven't had the opportunity to pose a lot of queer couples. So I'm sure you've received this kind of inquiry before. Hi, we're super excited to work with you, but we're really awkward. How can you help us? Did you know that that question is actually an FAQ on our page because we get that so often?
I mean, it's honestly, we're the same.
Yeah. We also feel really uncomfortable a lot of the times when the camera is turned on us. And we're going to talk a lot about this, but oftentimes our couples will start off the session by saying, hey, I'm really uncomfortable. I'm really awkward. Like, I hope we can still take good photos. And by the end of the session, they're actually ready to keep going. Like, there's been a couple of sessions lately where everybody starts off telling us how nervous or uncomfortable they are. And I think that's just the nature of like having all the trauma from school photos. We love to talk about that.
Oh, I 100% believe that school photos are the cause and the root of why we hate taking photos.
But by the end of the session, in both of these cases that I'm thinking about, one was a couple and they were so like sad that it was over, and the one partner was even like, hey, can we take this photo? Can we do this pose? Like, she was really excited to start advocating for herself. And the other one is the family session I'm thinking about, and how, again, we had one of the youngest family members come up to us and be like, hey, I know this is like kind of cringe, but can I take a few photos like just on my own? And we're like, oh my God, slay queen. She was like, I think 13 or something.
Yeah.
And her photos are awesome.
Oh
They were so cute.
She slayed.
She slayed, but she was like really uncomfortable at first. So today we're really going to be talking about all of the different ways that you can help, especially queer couples, feel comfortable in front of your lens. And so that way you will hopefully also have that compliment at the end of the session, which is, wow, this is so much fun. This is more fun than I've ever had before. That's really what we're trying to achieve. All right, so you ready to dive in?
Hell yeah, let's go.
So a lot of times when we are thinking about, especially for us, when I think about wedding and newly engaged couples and that kind of thing, we're really trying to show the love between our couples. But as we also know, not every love fits romantic love. A lot of our couples are very playful. They're very silly. They may not just be the kind of, cover story, I want to make out with my person kind of client. So how is it, Addie, that we oftentimes are able to showcase the authenticity between our couples and the way that they love each other? What are some of the things that we do in our sessions to help achieve that?
Something that we do a lot is movement-based posing, where we direct rather than pose people, but it all starts with a conversation first. I think us taking a breather beforehand and saying, hey, I'm Adeline, I'm Valerie, you've talked over the phone with us or video calls, but here we are in real life. Here are the things that we want to do today, but just tell me where we are, how you feeling, and then from there I'm going into directional movement-based like posing, I would say.
Yeah, so I think like Addie just said, a lot of it is about where we start before they even take a picture, right? So we start with kind of our get to know us call, and that's where we're hoping to already kind of suss out their vibes and find out like, are they super romantic? So Addie, when you think about our couples, like I said, a lot of them will usually tell us that they feel awkward in front of the camera.
Yeah.
So how do we go to ensure that, especially with our queer couples, that we're capturing their authentic love and not like some manufactured version of who they have to be?
I think it starts off with your actually planning calls and getting to know the people as individuals and then as a couple together. For me, assuming roles also is such a big thing that we should not be doing. So many times when I like direct my couple, I would tell them, hey, I'm not assuming any roles. Whatever you feel comfortable, do this. This is what we're trying to do. So I think the beginning is making sure you understand their vibes, who they are, and what they want from their photos. Because not every client wants the same thing from their photos either.
That's true. And I know that you and I have really kind of identified that when we start a session, and I mean like in the first 2 minutes of a couple arriving, what is something that you found has been really game changing for us?
So for me, and a big reason why I do this is because we come into a space sometimes feeling so stressed out, not only as a client, but also as a photographer, videographer, or creative, because there's
A lot of
expectations.
expectations.
So I have been trying for us practice that we take a breather, we introduce ourselves again. Many times this is the first time we see them in real life, and we introduce ourselves, we make a laugh or two. If they traveled, you ask how their drive was. Seriously, make that connection as if they're your friends, because we want to be
Yeah.
friends with our clients, right? And once you have sort of broken down those walls in the beginning, now you go into more of, how do we feel today? How do you feel about being in front of the camera? What are the things that you want to communicate as a couple and an individual with us today? And I feel like that has really shifted the way we approach things, because some couples really want to be posed.
Yeah. And
And
some couples are super romantic, right? Some couples, we've photographed couples who cannot wait to be kissing and cuddling and be all over each
yeah,
other. And we've also photographed a lot of couples who are uncomfortable with that.
yeah,
Keeping in mind that, especially queer couples in the South, we might not always have the space to show our authentic romantic love, right? Oftentimes we might have experienced some trauma being told not to hold hands or not to kiss or not to do this in front of others. And those stories can be playing in our head even when we're doing a photo shoot. I think another big thing for Addie and I is a lot of times we are photographing couples in public. We'll go to public spaces, be it state parks or local parks or whatever. And while we always check in with our clients about how they're feeling, and all, we've always had couples be like, yeah, this is fine, I'm comfortable. I'm sure that there's always that little anxious moment where it's like, but what if somebody says something
yeah,
to me?
yeah.
I do want to share a quick story. We were actually at the Dallas Arboretum and I was officiating a kind of random elopement. So, not something I necessarily recommend, but we had a very sweet queer couple who wanted to elope and they chose the Arboretum. And so we showed up. They were decked out and they looked gorgeous. And we pulled off to a kind of, more private area of the park. We weren't like in the main grassy lawn or anything. And as they were sharing their vows, there were a couple of people who like kind of started to form a little viewing party. And as the officiant, I could see them. The couple didn't really notice, I think, because they were so in their zone, but I was noticing. And so as a queer vendor, I was already kind of like sussing out, like, are these people friends or foes? Because unfortunately, not everybody is a friend. I was very pleasantly surprised that the people who were overlooking us had big smiles and they
Oh,
were very
I
curious,
didn't
but
even
then
know this.
yeah, but they eventually gave us space. So they eventually walked on. But, as queer photographers, whenever we're working with our couples, we're always kind of checking in on who's around us. Are the people safe? Are our couples comfortable? And so, to your point, a lot of that starts with just the initial moment.
Especially when you identify as people who are very shy or awkward in front of a camera. Sometimes conversations while you do the session is way more important than posing them, because getting them to feel really comfortable within themselves, within the space, you will get so much more authentic photos in the moment, pictures, videos in the moment, rather than being nitpicking of where the hand should be. So I think, again, just emphasizing knowing your couple, knowing your people, knowing the family, whoever is in front of your lens, you got to know them. And that starts with conversations.
I love that. So I think what's really special is once we already have taken the time to pre-meet our clients virtually and via emails, then we take the time once they arrive to chat with them before we even start shooting. And then we actually start shooting.
Yeah.
So Addie, once we've kind of broken the ice with our clients, we've already kind of sussed out how comfortable they are. We've made sure that they like the space. And we're actually starting now to go into taking photos.
Yeah.
What's kind of your first way of doing that? I know you said earlier, a lot of times you'll talk to them
Yeah.
during the session, but there's always a point in time where we start to maybe shoot with a little bit more intentionality in terms
Yeah.
of how we want them to appear or
Yeah.
act in front of the camera. What are some ways we ensure that we get those really gorgeous photos for their gallery?
For me, directional posing is really important.
Okay.
So if we start with a conversation, usually it's by telling them, let's stand this way or this way. Usually I love doing a V. So
Mhm.
they're quite close to each other. They're in each other's space, touching each other or holding each other. And then is where we start conversations. After that, I always ensure that I read the room. If anyone is uncomfortable or anyone feels seemingly like not vibing with what we were doing, I just stop and I ask, hey, do you need a redirection? Are you okay in this
Do
moment?
you want to switch it up? I mean, sometimes people look awkward in front of the camera just because they're physically uncomfortable,
Uncomfortable. Yeah.
right? If you're wearing an outfit or a pair of shoes that you've not worn before, or you're standing on, like, sometimes when we're shooting in these parks, we might be climbing on top of rocks
Yes.
and stuff. We always try to make sure, like, hey, I feel like you're not totally loving this pose. Do you want to switch up a little bit? Is there something we could do different? And I think by communicating that so clearly, it gives people the autonomy to like
Yeah.
speak up and say, like, oh yeah, you know what, my feet are really hurting. Can we like change the
Yeah.
position?
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more? I know you said some of those directional kind of posings. What are can you give me some examples of like a direction or a prompt you might give a
Yeah.
couple in order to get some of those more candid, romantic photos?
Yeah. I think one of the most famous ones I think out there is the drunken walk. But the big thing here is keeping it high key, affirming, really like you want this to be a fun experience, but a drunken walk sometimes can be clients literally falling over each other.
Yes, we've
And
had that before.
yes. So again, I think using stuff to mirror it. So I've been trying to practice with Valerie and I quickly, just give a quick guidance on how that would look like, pushing and pulling, looking away from the camera. I usually tell them, try not to look at my camera. We've had a couple, I don't know if you remember, but they were doing the drunken walk, did it perfectly, but they never looked at each other once. And I was like, ha ha,
That
we
was
loved it.
cute. Do it again. Look at each other.
Yeah, but it's so funny because I just called out one partner. I was like, "Wow, you didn't even look at your beautiful newlywed." Oh, and they laughed and they did it again, and then they looked at each other with longing eyes. So that's one of them. The drunken walk. Cuddling like you're at home on a sofa watching your favorite TV show has been a banger. I do love a good V that they
Mhm.
sit, and then forehead to forehead is another one that I absolutely love. And usually I try to say something out of pocket to get them to laugh, and usually that comes into like a tight hug and they laugh together, or they pull away, and it's a massive like it's a
There's just
lot
a lot.
that there. So yeah, I think those three are like the good beginner go-to poses. And I say beginner because I think we still use it in every single
Session.
session. Yeah.
Yeah, it always guarantees at least a few high quality, romantic or playful or fun photos,
Yeah.
right? Showing the couple's authenticity.
Yeah.
I think what's also really special is obviously we're a unique situation where we're wives working together. So I think that also really helps our queer couples feel like they can show their romantic side too. Because Addie and I, like Addie just mentioned, will actually model and practice what that looks like. We'll practice holding hands and holding each other around the neck and just being cute and kissing each other. And then that kind of mirrors our clients, right, who are queer. And so then they feel more comfortable maybe kissing each other or doing certain.
But I've had sessions without you, not a
Yeah.
lot, but one or two. And what I do, so if you're a photographer or videographer that works alone, in that moment, what I did is I would ask one partner, say, hey, can I touch you? And can I show you what I think we want to do right now? And they always say, yes, I don't care who I take by hand, and we just do it. And usually it's a silly laugh and stuff, but you can ask the partner too, like, hey, would you mind? Obviously don't do anything inappropriate, but other than that, modeling for your clients is a big thing.
Yeah. And I think you also just brought up another huge thing, which is always asking consent. I think a lot of times any person for any reason can feel uncomfortable being touched by another person, right? So Addie and I are very big on asking consent, even when it's something as simple as, hey, I'm going to move this hair off of your shoulder, or hey, do you mind if I do this? We always check in before we do
Yeah.
anything to ensure that our clients feel comfortable. I think that also really builds a level of trust with our clients. They realize that because we're checking in with them, they can check in with us. Hey, am I doing this right? Do I look good?
Yeah.
Oh, so what do you do whenever clients are like, oh, I don't know if this looks good? What do you do?
So I am a big hyper. I'm a big hyper, and I know there's going to be some photographers and videographers that disagree with this, but sometimes show them what you get in the back of your camera. Like I have showed people and I tell them, hey,
This
This
is
is a
unedited,
unedited
raw
raw photo.
photo.
I've been saying it's worse than your phone photos because phone photos have filters built in now and they smooth out skins. This is a photo that has
Shows every
all
pore.
the data you want, and look how amazing you look. We hype people up and I continuously compliment people. I think, and this is a thing that people need to realize, is compliments go far and be genuine about them. Usually I try to do it by someone like facial like stuff, so do it by the head. So either compliment them on their gorgeous hair. If someone gives me a compliment on my gorgeous hair, I tell you, I will be putty in your eye, like hands, and pose me as you wish. But I mean, telling Valerie how beautiful eyes are, would make her feel seen and beautiful, and just make sure that people feel good.
Yeah.
Vocalize it.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think, again, like that trauma of school photos is so many people were told, like, no, put your head like this, do that, do this, do that. And sometimes we still see photographers doing that. It's very rare, but it does happen. And I'm
Hmm.
just like, God, how could anybody feel good in front of a camera if they're being like yelled at or barked at or told to do certain things? Like,
Yeah.
nobody's ever going to feel that good. So, Addie and I also strongly believe that people respond so positively to our images because of how positive we make them feel in the experience.
Yeah.
Because they feel so warm and accepted and celebrated when they're taking the photos, they're going to look at the photos and feel that same positivity again and feel so beautiful.
Can I call photographers out a bit?
Go for it.
If you don't like the photos you got and you start saying, oh, my client was uncomfortable, my client was not doing what I needed them to do, this, that. If you start saying my client and you don't self reflect, you're the issue. 90% of the time, photographers, videographers, creatives are the issue. Like, I strongly believe that we need to continuously educate ourselves to ensure that we can work with everyone.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think like toddlers especially are hard clientele, but we have a little bit of a secret. How do we help our toddlers look super stoked?
A bubble gun.
A bubble gun. Whether that's giving it to the toddler to play with or us using, it usually gives them something to look at. It gives them something that's exciting. And I mean, like, gosh, if most times I'm able to get the bubble gun back, but like, look, if this kid loves the bubble gun, I'm happy to make a $10 donation to my client and let them keep the
Yeah,
bubble gun.
there you go. Mum, dad, parent, caregivers. There's a bubble
Here we
gun.
go. But I think like for our couples as well, it's finding things that make them feel happy, feel seen, feel comfortable. A lot of times with our newlyweds, if they don't have a planner who's super responsive, I might go to the bar and get them a drink, whether that's a glass of water or something alcoholic. It helps them to feel like somebody is seeing what they're going through, is listening to their needs, and therefore they're willing to be more authentic in front of the camera.
I'm going to put this in there again. Keep it simple. Have 5 go-to directional poses. I have needed to realize that if I'm bored by my directions, I'm doing it right. Because if I have 5 go-to directional poses, my clients know what to expect. There's no surprises. And yes, you might tell me like, oh, but that's not really creative anymore, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm going to call bullshit out on this because now you can get playing with lenses. You can play with medium, wide, height shots. You can start playing with different lighting, like forehead to forehead. Sure, it's great in a shaded thing, but now get it with the sun peeking. Drunken walk. When they pull away, make them pause. Go closer to them and get that hand shot, the V, get the wide shot of them standing closer together, but also get closer, get the hand shot of the person with their hand on someone's chest, that intimacy. Make it simple. Keep it repetitive, especially if you go to engagement photos than elopement or wedding. Then one, your session is so much faster. People can get to the party because that's why we do weddings and elopements as a big celebration. And 2, they're so much more comfortable because they know what's going to happen.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times when we're working with our clients, we're trying not to reinvent the wheel. After all, the beauty of the photo is them as the subject.
Yeah.
And we are not looking for our persons, our subjects, to be professional models. I don't think we've ever worked but maybe with one person who is actually a model. And so again, we're really looking to ensure that our average couple, our average client can feel super beautiful, model worthy without having to hear all these like barking commands like you might see on an editorial shoot. So, one more thing I want to talk about is kind of giving permission for things to be imperfect. I think, again, when we are being super strict on our posing with our clients, it creates this feeling that unless they're putting their hands a perfect way or doing something perfectly, the image is not going to be good.
Yeah.
And I think when that narrative starts going through people's minds, it starts making them like really hyper focus
Yeah.
on every little detail. And like, I mean, you know it, right? When you're thinking about something, your brain is going to be working that your face might not be super comfortable. So I know for us, we love to kind of prioritize candid moments. Again, with kind of everything we've talking about, using a lot of movement prompts, hyping them up, those candid moments where they just kind of laugh at each other about how silly this whole experience is, it can really result in some beautiful
Yeah.
images.
I think I'm still somewhat like I need to learn this is where to the balance between perfection and imperfection, but also as a photographer, the rules of photography really plays a big role in this, where composition is important. So, embracing the imperfectionist through following like things like composition, I think then your storytelling would be so much powerful and impactful rather than having a perfect posed model and lacking in everything else.
So, I think kind of one of the last things we want to talk about is a few more practical things when photographing queer couples. Like I mentioned, you never want to assume. Some couples are going to be super comfortable being romantic in front of the camera. They're going to be in that lovey dovey, newly engaged or newlywed space. And other couples might not be, whether it's because of just where they are in their journey of acceptance of even their own, same sex attraction, or just being in public, right? A
Yeah.
lot of times our couples are way more comfortable being romantic at home or in private than maybe out and about, especially in, more rural areas.
Yeah.
The other thing you might experience when you're photographing more same sex couples is more similar heights. So, again, some of these photos that you might see on Pinterest may not work with a couple who's a similar height. It might seem weird or it might come across more sisterly or brotherly rather than romantically or coupley.
Yeah.
I know that's unfortunately one story we heard from one of our friends who had a different photographer is that their photographer photographed them in a way that they felt very like was familial, like they were family members rather than being couples. And so that's definitely something that we try to watch out for with our couples. Another thing to keep in mind is when you're shooting, for example, like two brides or two people with really ornate wedding rings, is that you need to change your posing a little bit. If you're trying to showcase two rings, we've really found that like a pinky promise works great. Here, if you want to demonstrate,
Oh, yeah.
because now we can take a photo showcasing both rings in a way that might not be like possible in other photographs. For example, another really popular photograph pose is kind of more like this, but as you can see, only one gemstone is visible in this picture. And this might be fine when one partner has a very traditional band without a lot of ornate decoration. But for a lot of our like WLW couples, they want to see both rings. So we try to find unique ways to show that off.
Yeah.
What are some other kind of quick hits you think of when showing off our or photographing our queer couples? Some things that we try to keep in mind.
Don't assume roles and pronouns. Remember their pronouns. Please use them respectfully. Just because they are married now doesn't mean they go by bride and bride or groom and groom. Ask them and prefer them as that. Or just say partners, and use their names. Also, just because someone is masculine presenting doesn't mean they want to be posed always as masculine and vice versa. So ask what their preferences is and don't make them feel uncomfortable or like forced in a situation where they don't want to be something that you are trying to make them.
Yeah, this is a shout out to another photographer, but when we went to Imaging USA this year, Allie was incredible at saying that whenever she is photographing queer couples, that she never assumes one couple is going to want to do a specific part of a pose. So for example, let's say that we have two brides both wearing a dress and that we want to do a spinning pose, right? Well, rather than us saying, okay, Elisa, I want you to spin Elizabeth, we're going to let them choose. We're going to say, hey, I want to capture a photo of y'all spinning around in your dresses? Does one person want to start by spinning the other? And maybe they both want to do it. Or we've also had it where the person who's wearing the suit wants to be the one that spins
I mean,
around.
that was you.
Slay, that was me. Yeah, I was the one who, even though I'm a super femme person for whatever reason, on my wedding day, a dress was not in the cards. I hated every wedding dress I put on. And so I ended up rocking a suit, which was very unusual for me. And I wanted to like
You
spin
looked
around like a
so
princess.
beautiful
Thank you. I
and
felt like
very
a
fun.
princess. Yeah, I was femme in my way, and that's what mattered.
Yeah.
So, like, I definitely think not assuming, allowing the couples to do what they want to do, what feels natural to them, allowing the people to figure out their own roles. And sometimes those roles shift or sometimes they're clear, whatever, but letting our couples choose.
Yeah.
I think, again, when you think about queer people, one of the most beautiful things, in my opinion, about our relationships is that everything is up for negotiation. There's nothing that is really forced upon us or expected upon us because we're not playing into this binary notion of women do this and men do this.
Yeah.
We get to do what we want to do. And so even honoring that in our photography, I think is really important. All right, Addie, what's one thing that gives you the ick when looking at quote unquote traditional wedding galleries?
So I've realized recently that when I look at a traditional wedding where it's like 8 a.m. till 12 a.m. and I look through the gallery, I hate it that men and women are photographed in a typical standard where the men are doing masculine things, aka getting ready photos as fixing their ties, choosing a whiskey. That's it. I'm very and
Rigid, yeah.
rigid. And then women are giggly and fun and in their PJs. But I identify as a woman and I would not do that today. I would drink my whiskey and cheers with my bridal party or
Wedding party.
wedding
Is
party.
the word we like to
Yeah.
use.
So for me, I look forward to the day where we go away from that and we try to make sure that everyone feels the way that they want to feel.
Yeah, I think like you were saying, it's really about seeing these galleries where it feels like everybody was forced into this very clear gendered role, right? That the men were forced to be really like stoic
Masculine.
and masculine and uncaring maybe about the day, and the women were forced to be just ultra gorgeous and romantic. And it's like, no, we can all be like this. I know for me, whenever I shoot a lot of like our masculine grooms, a lot of time for them, what's important is having fun with their mates, right? Like they don't necessarily need to all stand there with their arms crossed looking serious. They want to be like high fiving each other. Oh my gosh. I remember recently at one wedding, I asked them like, oh, can we, they were all old friends, right? Brothers, and they'd known each other for forever. So I said, okay, like go ahead and pose like you would in high school. And they all started shaking their booties and laughing. It was amazing. Like, again, I think when we get away from this idea that all of our couples need to be photographed as models and instead allow them to be photographed for who they are,
Yeah.
you end up with beautiful and amazing and memorable images. We're not here to create the same image that appears in every wedding magazine. We're here to create images that truly reflect who the people
I
are.
think you've nailed it there. Is if we step away from what a traditional wedding should look like and start capturing it like the individual couple,
It's
well
golden.
done. Well
Yeah,
done. You're doing
golden.
what we should be doing in the wedding industry.
All right. So, as we've kind of talked today, it's all about ensuring that you're capturing authenticity rather than perfection, that you are checking in with your clients before, during, and even after the session to
Build that
ensure,
trust.
ensure that they feel supported and appreciated and guided. And I think if you follow all these things, you'll have a lot of success with both queer and non-queer couples.
If this episode helped you to rethink how to pose your couples or family sessions, let us know. Share this with a photographer friend or tag us on Instagram. Until next time, follow us on Instagram for all the chaos behind the scenes at Hey Love Studios. Bye, Queen. Thanks so much for hanging out with us today, and hopefully you've learned something.
Yeah, if something really stuck with you today, please consider sharing it with another photographer, videographer, or creative. Make sure you hit follow and consider leaving us a review.
And if you love this chaos, please ensure that you follow us on Instagram at Hey Love Studio. This is where we share our BTS, our beautiful queer love, and other couples, and we would love to see you there.
Until next time, keep creating,
Keep celebrating,
and know that, hey, love, we got you.